I was in a Facebook group the other day and somebody was asking where they should purchase their Victron components from, and somebody replied with, you should just buy it from Amazon and save a couple bucks. And that's not true. You can't get Victron stuff on sale, and I kind of we just sort of wanted to like hop on here and say, how do you get the best price on Victron components? How does explorist.life price our equipment and our wiring kits and stuff like that? So Steph, do you want to explain how Victron prices their components?
Yeah, so Victron prices their components on a MAP pricing system, which stands for minimum advertised pricing. And what that means is that Victron standardizes all of their prices across all of their dealers, and we're not allowed to sell any further below, not even a penny below that MAP price. Otherwise, we risk losing our dealer account with Victron. And so how that works is, Victron has the MSRP, which is manufacturer's suggested retail price. Yep. And then there's a percentage off that you're allowed to discount and advertise that price for. So, for Victron, that's 15% off of MSRP, and that is your MAP price. So that is the minimum you are allowed to list that product for on your site. And pretty much everybody, all dealers, pretty much list the products for Victron at that MAP price. We do on shop.explorist.life. All of our Victron products, you'll see that they have the MSRP listed, and then they have the sale price, which is on sale year-round at that MAP price, and we don't change that. We keep that as low as possible, and we sell it as low as we're allowed to you guys.
So can you do coupons?
You can't do coupons. Coupons would be considered an advertised price. So, if a company has the Victron products listed for MAP price, and then they say site-wide 10% off, that's also a violation of Victron's MAP policy. So that's not allowed either.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of important to you can test that. You can go to Google and search for Victron Smart Solar MPPT 130, and you'll notice that explorist.life and Amazon and Battleborn Batteries and PKYS and whoever else is selling it is probably going to be at that MAP price. Now, there's going to be a couple dealers who they may choose to sell a little bit more expensive. Maybe they got some specialty stuff going on or whatever, or maybe they're not, selling online isn't their like key focus or whatever. But, all of us who are sort of in that like lowest range, we're all priced the same. So why would you buy from us versus Amazon given the price is the same, because Amazon's got a great return policy. Amazon is easy, it's repeatable. You could buy your smart solar charge controller and your Santa coffee mug like at the same time, and it's all going to show up in the same box. That's kind of convenient, right?
Yeah, I guess if convenience is all you're worried about, then yes. But personally, I wouldn't want to buy my Santa coffee mug and my electrical equipment from the same company because of tech support and expertise.
Yeah, so your Victron dealer, whoever you purchase from, is responsible for your tech support. And through Amazon, you're not buying directly from Amazon. The way Amazon works is it's just a selling platform, and most cases you have third-party dealers who are selling using that Amazon platform. So I think Inverters R Us is a pretty big Amazon dealer, and they're actually great. Like I've actually trained some of their sales staff, and they do a pretty good job. But you don't always get that choice on which third-party Amazon dealer that you sort of pops up. It's just an algorithm more than anything. And you could have a third-party dealer that sells a Victron charge controller, but they also sell cheese graters, and they also sell dishwasher pumps, and it's all kinds of random things. And then you sort of have to ask yourself, like, is this dealer, do they actually know what they're talking about with Victron components? I'm not trying to call anybody out, but let's say if you're kind of selling a wide smattering of things, you might not have that kind of expertise. Here at explorist.life, this is all we do. Like, we're just electrical systems. So At the moment, all we sell is Victron components. I'd like to expand that into other electrical components eventually, but I have zero interest in selling washing machine pumps and cheese graters and stuff like that. You know, we've decided to focus down into this so that we can provide that support. And we also don't sell anything that we haven't made tutorials and videos about. And that's because whenever somebody buys something from us, they email in for some personalized tech support, there's a really good chance that we have a video tutorial or a blog post or an article or a calculator or something that will answer that question and get them pointed in the right direction. I would say that's probably, let's call it 85 to 90% of the case. Otherwise, then we sort of have to, you know, get pictures and take pictures or make some diagrams and send them over and stuff like that. But we already have all that stuff in place to get those problems solved very, very quickly. So what about how much more expensive are the explorist.life wiring kits? Because that was all components, Victron components specifically.
Yeah, so our wiring kits are priced pretty much the same as what you could buy all of the different components for on Amazon. We take pride in the fact that we've gone through all of Amazon's products and compared it to ours, and I do that on a very regular basis to make sure that we are competitively priced. We want to get you guys the best deal and the right components for your electrical systems. So I would say we're within 5% on either end. We might be 5% cheaper. We might be 5% a little bit more expensive than Amazon, but within 5%, I can confidently say we're right there with Amazon.
Because whenever we do those audits, those pricing checks, you know, if something is outside of that 5% threshold on either side, plus or minus, then we make an adjustment. And yeah, like Steph said, that means that some of our kits might be up to 5% more expensive than on Amazon, but some of our kits might be up to 5% less than they are on Amazon. We just can't keep things exactly as Amazon has it because they change daily, and we don't have time to check that every single day. That would be not realistic. So, you know, I think that's the interesting part too with, with other dealers and what we have going on. We have wiring kits for every single, we don't put a component on our site that we don't have a wiring kit for. And that's because we're not interested in selling people just a bunch of components and saying good luck. Back whenever we started with all of this stuff and we were building our very first van back in the day, that was the most frustrating part of that was, we knew what components we needed to buy because somebody, told us or whatever the case was. And then we had to spend, days trying to figure out what wire size worked, what wire size would actually fit. This fuse size isn't actually available. This isn't a real fuse size. And then, so it's like we don't have a component on the site that we don't have a wiring kit for, and that's just to make things easy. You can buy just the component from us and then try to piece the wiring kit. We're happy to sell you the component, but I think the wiring kits makes things, significantly easier. And also on our site, for the sake of pricing, are complete wiring kits that have, every single thing in it, every single charging source, and the individual component kits where it might be like the charge controller and the charge controller wiring kit. You're not getting a whole lot of a discount if you buy the full kit. We just price everything fairly from the start. We don't really like playing pricing games because I don't like playing pricing games whenever I'm trying to buy something. I would rather the thing just be priced fairly from the start and not have to worry about coupons and stuff like that. And, well, on our side, as the people who are selling the stuff, that stuff takes a lot of time to run a sale. We have to make the graphics and all that kind of stuff. So long story short, it's just easier if we just keep everything priced fairly from the start.
Yep. And so, that's a good segue into why we don't run sales. And we don't really run sales on shop.explorist.life. We have pretty much one sale a year on Black Friday, and that's, again, just to be competitive and because we have to. That's part of the market, the game that we have to play.
Well, the other part about that is I like Black Friday sales as a consumer. I
Yes.
initially didn't want to do Black Friday sales, but then Steph and Grace behind the camera there, they both said, they're like, well, aren't you like looking forward to buying a new ski coat on Black Friday? It's like, oh yeah, I guess so. That's kind of hypocritical, I guess. But so I guess we'll run one sale a year.
We run one sale a year, and aside from that, yeah, we try to keep everything priced competitively and as fairly as possible and as low as possible without having to run different sales and have coupon codes and things like that, and make you guys jump through hoops and make ourselves jump through hoops.
Yeah, and I think that this turned into a salesy video, but there's still people who don't know that we sell parts and components like that. I had a comment on the YouTube channel just the other day. It's like it was one of our full start to finish electrical systems. Like, where can I buy this? It's like, I mean, we said it like 4 or 5 times throughout the video, but here's another link. So we're trying to make it more obvious that we actually do sell the parts and components in order to install all of this stuff, because I don't know that a whole lot of people are watching a tutorial over how to install a solar charge controller just for fun. I think it's one of those things where you're probably needing to actually install a charge controller, wouldn't you think?
I would think so.
Maybe y'all can let us know in the comments if you're just watching charge controller wiring videos just for fun. But I think that the other thing is, recently we crossed 500 Google reviews, and some of the ones recently have been talking about our pricing and how we actually are, just right there in line with Amazon and anybody else on the internet. And so don't take our word for it, in the words of LeVar Burton. And, go check out our Google reviews and read through those if you're trying to make a decision on who to purchase from. Because I know all these kits and these wiring and all these components and stuff like that, super expensive. It's high quality components and it's a lot of copper, and copper is expensive. So.
Very expensive.
So you have anything else to add to any of that, or do we cover it?
I think we got it.
Grace, did we cover everything? Okay, perfect. Okay, well, thanks for watching. And for those of you who have shopped with shop.explorist.life, we really do appreciate it. We're able to funnel some of those profits back into all of these videos that we put out every single week. I think we're the only sort of dealers who are making tutorials like this on this sort of level each and every single week. And that's because of our customers. So thank y'all for everybody who's sort of been tuning in and purchasing from us. For those of you who aren't customers just yet, we'd sure love to have you as customers, and we'd love to be a part of your project. So I think that's it for this week. We'll see you next time.